names are in those Epstein documents released by the court and whose names are not. I'm going to start with who is definitely not included in any of the documents that were released last night. Jimmy Kimmel, Oprah, and Joe Biden appear nowhere in those documents that were released. And anyone telling you their names are included is making it up. This video is going to talk about exactly whose names were disclosed in that Epstein document dumped from the courts last night, and I'm going to show you word for word what was said about each of them. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is a super deep dive video, so if you don't have time to watch it right now, that is okay with me. Just favorite it and come back to it when you have a few minutes, because I think you're going to see this is worth it. First, you and I need to have a little conversation about misinformation and how to protect yourself from it, especially because more of these Epstein documents are going to be released in the coming days and weeks, and you need to understand what you're actually going to be getting. So let's talk about misinformation. First, I have a really good example to show you. So I have seen so many fake images floating around the internet, like this one on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, that appears to be a transcript from a deposition, and Jimmy Kimmel's name is on it. The problem is, this doesn't exist anywhere in the court documents released last night. I've been through all of them. It's so fake, in fact, that even X attached one of those content warnings to the post. Now, here's the hard truth. Misinformation is easy information. It gets handed to you on a silver platter, and it oftentimes reinforces narratives that you want to believe. So if you come across it, that should be your first red flag. The truth is usually pretty boring. The truth is complicated. It's going to take you time and energy to find it. And that's exactly what's happening with these Epstein documents. Now, as I said during my live event last night, there is no Epstein list of names included in the 40 court documents that were released last night. But what does exist is almost 1,000 pages of documents and emails and depositions from a 2015 civil case involving one of Epstein's most recognizable victims, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and his convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. Those Epstein documents look like this. They are not easy to go through, but if you read them line by line, you can pick out some names. And lots of those names being released are mostly the names of victims and witnesses and other people who just so happened to be in Epstein's orbit at the time. Names like Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, George Lucas, magician David Copperfield, Michael Jackson, Cate Blanchett, and Leonardo DiCaprio. All those names were mentioned in depositions. But just because those names were mentioned in depositions does not mean those people did anything wrong. Some of them were mentioned in depositions for just being perceived friends of Epstein because Epstein was bragging about them, or because these people may have joined him at a party or a dinner one time. For example, in a deposition of one of Epstein's accusers, she says David Copperfield was at a dinner with Epstein and that he did some magic tricks. As far as Michael Jackson, an Epstein accuser was asked about the famous people she had met while she was in Epstein's orbit, and Michael Jackson was one. Did you give him a massage? No. As for Trump, his name was brought up a couple of times by an Epstein accuser who said they were on a flight with Epstein and they couldn't land in New York, so they had to land in Atlantic City. The accuser said, Epstein said, great, we'll call up Trump and we'll go to, I don't recall the name of the casino, but we'll go to the casino. In another instance, an Epstein accuser was being asked if she was ever forced to give a massage to famous people. The lawyer asks George Lucas. She says, no. Donald Trump? No. Did you ever massage Donald Trump? No. So is anybody accusing Donald Trump of wrongdoing? So far, no. And Trump, of course, denies any claims otherwise. As for Bill Clinton, one of the Epstein accusers is asked, do you know if Bill Clinton was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein? She answers, I knew he had dealings with Bill Clinton. I did not know they were friends until I read the Vanity Fair article about them going to Africa together. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton? He said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. So this is a reference to an off comment that Jeffrey Epstein made one time about Bill Clinton being relayed by one of Epstein's accusers. That's called hearsay and is not a prosecutable offense. Of course, former President Clinton has admitted to knowing Jeffrey Epstein and traveling with him in the past, but he said back in 2019, when all this sort of came out, that he knew nothing about the crimes Epstein had committed. When it comes to Kate Blanchett or Leonardo DiCaprio, Epstein's accuser says Epstein claims he was on the phone with them. She said of Epstein, he would be on the phone a lot at that time. And one time he said, oh, that was Leonardo, or that was Kate Blanchett or Bruce Willis, that kind of thing. So name dropping? Yes. So you have not met Kate Blanchett or Leonardo DiCaprio? I have not. So you can see none of those people were accused of any wrongdoing. This is not new information. It is not bombshell information either. Plus, these documents and depositions are from 2015. By the way, depositions are not an indictment. A deposition does not mean that automatically somebody is going to be charged with a crime. A deposition is just one person's account under oath of what happened to them or what they saw or what they heard. That's all these documents are. And that's what we're going to probably continue to get when the court continues to release the rest of these Epstein documents in the coming weeks. Now, you may have heard the date, January 22nd. That date is brought up because there are actually two people who are only known at this point as Doe 107 and Doe 110. Both of them are asking the judge to keep their names secret. The judge has given Doe 107 until January 22nd to file additional documents with the court to support her request to remain private. And Doe 110 has already submitted documents to the court asking for the name to be sealed. The judge says she will make a decision about whether to release either of those names in due course. The last point I want to make here is none of this is new information to law enforcement either. So it is unlikely any of these released documents will result in any type of new prosecution for any of these people mentioned. Now, please, I want you to be very careful who you listen to when it comes to this story or really any story, especially as we move into an election year. In case you don't know this about my content, every single video I put out is backed up by source material that has been vetted. And by the way, I give you that source material in my Newsgirl News Roundup email every single night. I literally link the source material for you. So I will be emailing these Epstein court documents out again tonight in my Newsgirl News Roundup email if you want to sift through them yourself. So make sure you sign yourself up.